Why don't you get a real estate license to sell houses? Because I have time for that. Westside Rascal cheered. He said, go, Phil. Thank you, Westside Rascal, for the cheer. All right. Oh, my God. Yes. With all the free time that I have. You know, the free time that I have at 10, from 10 at night until maybe like 1 to 2 in the morning, when usually I'm doing stuff around the house and then spending time with my wife before we both go to sleep. Those are the free time hours I had. Let me go sell some real estate in the middle of the night.
I got a whole fun house of stuff waiting for you guys for today. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News Second Edition. I'm your host, and let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. First, a small PSA. As you guys know, I had mentioned. Let's see here. I had mentioned a couple of new Twitter accounts. If you guys were, I thought some of you guys would be interested in checking out. Let's see here. The Goutopia Museum of Unnatural Art. The link to that Twitter account will be down in the description if you guys want to check that out. And Snortbucks Coffee, the best beverage company, has an official Twitter account as well. I'll leave the link of that down in the description. As time goes on, I'll add more stuff to this, but or I'll add more accounts to this. But those are the two big ones. Big ups to Loco Slam and Chio 18, respectively. Now, second PSA. Ladies and gentlemen, which I'm sure most of you guys have already caught, and yet again, my apologies either which way. But on the last two videos, the first one, special update or the contract negotiation video, that one's from December. That was December 16th of 2015. The second video, which was streaming business, his streaming business, that was on December 28th of 2016. My bad. I said that they were both in 2015, spaced out by 12 days. In actuality, it's so much worse. They were spaced out by a year. So the first video was in 2015, the other one's in 2016. Now, granted, in the thumbnail and as well as if you go in, if you actually click on the video in the link, it tells you all of these things. But still, I want to put it out there that my apologies on that. It was just a small mess up in the dates, but I'm sure you guys caught it either which way. So, I mean, I'm probably being overly cautious, but still, I feel the need to just go ahead and put that out there. My apologies on that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the PSAs. Now we get into the fun stuff. Now you guys are here for the funnies. Ladies and gentlemen, Blip TV. Oh yes, Blip TV. We all know about that, right? Blip TV, ladies and gentlemen, just a small history lesson, a very brief one actually until we get into the video, is Darksydephil, DSP, and what eventually became DSP Gaming. That was his second major screw up. His first one was getting kicked off of the Google AdSense by telling people to click ads. From that situation, he runs over to BlipTv, which is where that guy with the glasses and all those guys were at, goes over there. Supposedly, I try to look up some of the stats. Some of it corroborates with what he said. Some of it, yeah. But he goes over there. He has a decent run for about a month and a half. Not even a full 2 months. A month and a half. And then he gets kicked off. Now, you guys have all seen the infamous Dead Space 2 situation. But I'm hoping, if this is the video that I think it is, that was recommended, this will actually flush out the whole story. Which is what we're here for. This is what we want. So big ups to the individual who made the request. And ladies and gentlemen, we're about to go ahead and just get into this. Okay, so here's how it works. We are here with LD. He actually changed his name, but it was like Tay HOV or HOV. And then I guess he changed it back to LD again. If you haven't seen his channel, I'll leave the link to this video down in the description as I usually do. But he's the one who did the compilations of like I think it's called unhealthy lifestyles, and he has like 13 of them, and it's a compilation of all of Phil's DSP trizits up to a certain point. So that's a good watch too. We might go over a couple of those. I think I always planned to, and I didn't know what channel I was going to put it on. But I guess I should put it over here because it's more of a historical type thing. We'll see. But that's something to look forward to. But anyway, we're here with LD. Let's see. DSP Hypocrisy Z. The Blip TV / racist saga. Oh boy. Now, here's the problem. LD published this video on May 22nd of 2014. The actual situation with Dead Space is what when he actually got kicked off of Blip, that was a bit harder to try to tie down on what the exact date was for it. A lot of the channels that have it archived, they have it archived somewhere between January, it seems like January 12th of 2010. I feel like it wasn't that early though, because I think he lost his job in 2010. And remember, he asked for people to click ads after he got fired. So that's my difference. It's sometime in 2010 though. Either that or it's early 2011, one of the two. But I don't have a date actually locked in, so my apologies on that fully. Now don't get me wrong, the date that's given, which is either January of 2010 or December of 2010, either way it's still accurate. But one of them could be accurate, I should say. I just wasn't able to tie it down. I wasn't able to give you guys a definitive. And yet again, that's a failure on my part. I apologize. But either which way, I think this will still be a good listen. Either which way, so strap in. Let's go ahead and go over this Blip TV saga and hear what Phil's opinions are about the Jews, apparently, and stealing jokes. Because another thing that's part of pig lore that came out only in the last year or two is that Phil stole the joke from Howard Stern. So in actuality, he doesn't deserve the blunt of the responsibility because it was merely a joke that he took from Howard Stern. Here's the problem. There's a couple problems with that actually. One is that you're taking Howard Stern jokes and trying to pass them off as your own. The reason why I say that is because in recent times, right, when Phil actually went ahead and threw the blame on Howard Stern, he said that, oh, Howard Stern wasn't on YouTube and there wasn't anybody really talking about him on YouTube and so on and so forth. So when I introduced his jokes, you know, no one would have known it was Howard Stern unless you actually watched Howard Stern. And since he had a younger audience, they wouldn't have been listening to him. So you see the situation with that? So he's literally the Carlos Mencia of the gaming community in a lot of ways, is that he was sitting there taking other people's shit and passing it off as his own, thinking that he was being clever and thinking that no one would find out because back in those days, that's, you know, in the early 2010 onwards, he even says that he used to religiously watch Howard Stern or listen to him. He used to, like, every day he was watching him or listening to him. Sorry, it's early. He used to listen to him a lot. So it is what it was. So that just gives you an idea of what kind of individual Phil is. And so it's kind of easy to tell in some ways on why his humor put people off. At least some people anyway, especially if you're not familiar with Howard Stern. I mean, you know, you might be looking at you might be listening to some of those jokes and thinking they're just crude or it's just ignorant just to be ignorant. But then again, Phil's delivery of that joke or his interpretation of that joke or his rendition of that joke compared to the original that Howard Stern would say are completely different. So keep that in mind as well. Not trying to defend either one of them, but I'd like to just give you a little bit of context. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into the video itself, and I'll see you guys in a few.
going on, everyone? It's DSP here, and I wasn't going to do this, but I think it actually is better to just talk about it and get the facts straight and get it out in the open, and that way a lot of this speculation, these crazy rumors that have been going around today will be resolved. It is pretty late here. It's 10:30 at night, but I want to get this out rather than have everyone make this crazy stuff up. So earlier today, unfortunately I canceled my second, I don't know what to call it, not an appointment, but my second session, there you go, of fan appreciation videos, which were going to be Black Ops. I was going to play with everyone. It was supposed to be from 7 to 10 p.m. The reason I had to cancel is because something pretty serious happened today. Now, just to resolve all the rumors, no, it has nothing to do with my health, it has nothing to do with an accident or a family member or anything like that. I kind of hoped that you wouldn't think that, because in my previous video today that I talked about this, I said, you know, that I'm going to be moving my gameplay footage back to DSP Gaming on YouTube. But I guess it wasn't apparently clear. So I apologize to anyone who had a misconception that something crazy was going on like that. It is not. So that's good news.
Now, in actuality, though, by him being vague about it, it kind of draws people into this video. It'll draw people in to watch this video by him being vague. So something to keep in mind. Also, now that I think about it, given the date, excuse me, it might actually be early 2010, because look at how barren the walls are. This is way before, ladies and gentlemen, the actual YouTube money came in. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with LD, DSP Hypocrisy Z, Blip TV / Racist Saga. This was uploaded, or published, I should say, on May 22nd of 2014. And yet again, I believe the event actually happened sometime in 2010. Either beginning of 2010 or, yeah, either beginning of 2010 or the end of 2010, which is not exactly helpful. Here we go.
But what we're going to talk about is basically exactly what happened today in regards to myself and my status on BlipTv. Now, some very quick background. I've been on Blip TV now for about a month, and I put up a bunch of different things. First of all, I carried many of my series from this channel, The King of Hate HD, over to there when I was basically suspended from the Google AdSense program. Since then, I also started doing, and I hate to call them these, but Let's Plays over on Blip TV. But also I did my year-end videos, my Game of the Year awards, all kinds of content I've been putting up. My New York City trip I have over there, okay? So far so good. Blip for the past month has been extremely good. First of all, they upgraded me to HD videos for free. They contacted me, okay? I have one particular person who's been working with me for a month. He's helped me with so many things that I had questions on, problems and things like that. And I also passed questions through him. For example, one of my first questions to him was, listen, a lot of the stuff that I do is video game footage. Is that acceptable? And he said, as long as...
My bad, guys. I swore... Keep in mind, it's DSP, so he switches the stories up a lot. I swore he said he was up there for a month and a half. But right here, basically with the original, he's saying that he was only there for a month. Interesting. All right, fair enough. So that's one discrepancy. Another thing, though, is how exclusive how exclusive they used to treat Phil. Hey guys, they upgraded me the DSP to HD quality for free. I didn't ask for it. They came to me. Yet again, him wanting to be catered to, which ties back to why he never went back to E3. He waited for them to invite him to E3 instead of him reaching out to his MCN, Machinima, and being like, "Hey, thank you for sending me last year. Can you guys send me more passes? Can I go again this year? Or can you get me passes so I can go this year? Or the following years, I should say."
There's something to the footage that basically makes it a transformative work, okay?
Now, this part I really want you guys to listen to. Because... BlipTv had these standards, right, that they had for video game content. And that bullshit that Phil's been doing wasn't cutting it. On YouTube, it would have been fine. But over there on Blip, they didn't want that. They wanted something that actually required effort. And Phil tried to pass his bullshit off just enough so he could just go past the standards, if you will. And even then, he still failed at that. This should tell you why later on. But I want you to listen to what he calls transformative. I want you to listen. I want you to take it in what he says about it, because later on when he says that what the detractors do, what this is how you don't plays do, that's just not considered transformative. What he does is considered transformative. I want you to think about that.
It's acceptable on BlipTv. Now what that means is a Let's Play where I'm giving live review and commentary and criticism of the game. That's a transformative work. A game review, official review video, like The Hateful Truth. That's a transformative work. Or my top 10 series or top 20 series for Game of the Year awards. That's a transformative work. All those things under U.S. fair use law currently are considered transformative works. So for the past month I've been putting everything up on Blip and everything's been great.
If that's the case, then when someone does it, this is how you don't play, and they chop it up and they make it a bit more concise and then they add certain things to it, how is that not transformative? When Tevin or Agent Proper or James the Lesser or anybody goes over his pre-streams and gives critique to those pre-streams, they react to those pre-streams. How are those not transformative? If someone is reacting to his stream, right, or even the video from his stream, right, of his gameplay, and they react to it and they give commentary and they give criticism or even educational purposes for how to play the game properly, how is that not transformative? Interesting stuff, isn't it? Defiant sniff. Well, I'm a little stuffed up.
I was supposed to actually this week have a conference call with my contact at Blip and someone else. They were going to talk a little bit more about how the ads really work on Blip and basically what are the seasons, I guess, where maybe there would be a little bit more ad activity as opposed to someone there's a dry spell. For example, December seemed to be a gigantic month and this month seems to have slowed down. And that makes sense. As a business, as advertisers aren't going to spend as much money the month after Christmas as they are during Christmas, because Christmas is when everyone's spending money. So it makes sense. So we were going to have...
I actually don't think that's fully what the conversation was going to be about. And he'll touch on that later. Like later on, I'll point it out to you exactly what I mean. But I think what they were going to talk to him about was, hey, remember what we talked about as it pertains to gaming footage on our site? You're barely meeting the bare minimum. You need to change that up. Oh, well, what I'm doing is transformative, so on and so forth. Not to our standards. Oh, well, but according to U.S. law, that's U.S. law. You're on our site, and you're not meeting our standards. You need to change it, Phil, or you're going to have to go somewhere else. I think that was part of the conversation that was going to happen later on. And that makes sense, given what the letter says. And he's going to read that letter from these people from Blip in a little bit. And I think you'll see what I mean then.
This conference call this week, and actually as early as last night, I got an email from my contact. He said, Phil, what times are you available this week? I'm in the office, and I let him know when I'm free this week. So I hadn't heard from him all day today, and then finally, at 4:30 p.m., I get an email, okay? So I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to, fib or try to interpret I'm going to read you the email, okay? Because, by the way, the email doesn't say this is an internal memo. It doesn't say anything like that. And it is honest truth of what was said to me, so I'm going to read it, okay?
Now, with that being said, I assume the machinima letter, right, that told him to, or the YouTube letter, or both, that told him, hey, in 2005, you need to delete all those videos or you're going to lose your account, Phil. I assume that same letter doesn't have that same type of critique to it as well. It's not under some type of gag order. So why hasn't he read that email to us yet? Why didn't he print out that email and say, hey guys, I have definitive evidence right here, and I'm going to read you guys the email that YouTube/Machinima told me to delete all those videos that fucked up my channel in the algorithm in 2015. Why haven't we gotten that email? Why hasn't that email been produced? Just saying, he can go ahead and do this shit with Blip, but he's not going to do it, which is 5 years prior to him with the Machinima situation, or with the false copyright strike situation. I apologize, but yet he couldn't do it otherwise. That seems strange. That seems extremely odd. But also, there's another takeaway that I've referenced in this video on my main channel before. Is the subtle threat. I wouldn't say it's a threat. Well, the implications of a threat. I think it is a threat, but it's the implications of a threat. That if they don't let him back on, that there might be some repercussions. I'll definitely point that out to you when we get to that point, but I want you guys to hear it.
I'm not going to give out any personal contact information or anything like that because I'm not looking to hurt Blip. I love Blip. For a month they've been great to me, and I want to explain to everyone what happened and what's going on. Okay? And then I'm going to actually read my response to Blip, which I sent them within about an hour of receiving this email. And then we'll talk a little bit about my take on this. So here we go. Alright, so this is... Hi, Phil.
I want you to not listen to. If you can, I'd like you guys to see some of his facial reactions to some of the criticisms that they have. And how, you know, he's kind of quickly, how he quickly tries to dismiss them. Well, physically tries to dismiss them, not verbally, because obviously he's trying to get back on, so he doesn't want to be a complete asshole about it.
By the way, the subject line was just BlipTv, so I didn't know what it was about. It says, hi, Phil. I know you were working on setting up a call with blank. This was my contact at BlipTv for some time this week, but I'm going to have to preempt that conversation here. Okay? While we were initially willing to work with you, we found that your videos are frequently violating our terms of service on multiple fronts. Okay? The less serious of the offenses are the raw gameplay videos you are uploading.
See what I mean with the different types of expressions, try and dismiss that physically, so on and so forth. Well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. U.S. law protects me and says that it's transformative. I don't give a fuck if it's your site or not. The U.S. law says it's transformative. This is Mr. I don't pay my taxes either, though, and I don't claim my tips on my taxes. So apparently, U.S. law is only important when it fits his needs. Right.
Okay. I'm not going to give any commentary. We're just going to read this. We clearly state when you sign up that uploading gameplay is not allowed. You are required to check a box specifically acknowledging this in order to open an account. You do make some videos within the constraints of the show format, but many of them are just meandering and random.
Woo! Oh boy, they were shit. See, that's what I'm saying. It's, and like I said, I'll continue to let it go a little bit, but as you go on and you hear some of the reasoning, that phone call he was supposed to have that day, right? If this situation didn't pop up, it was going to be them addressing some of these situations. I think it was going to be like, hey, your content isn't exactly what we're looking for on our site. Either you need to change it and we can help you go about changing it, or you might have to find somewhere else. And granted, that's where Blistered Thumb, which was part of that guy with the glasses, would have more than likely have swooped in and picked Phil up. Because one, Phil had a pretty big audience for for that guy with the glasses to absorb into their own ecosystem. And two, they could work around him. And then even if things don't work out and they end up kicking Phil to the curb, or Phil leaves on his own, they still have a majority of his audience. So for Blistered Thumbs and that guy with the glasses, that would have worked out great. Phil was going to be an easy lick. You know what I'm saying? They were looking at Phil like he was a free lunch, and he would have been. So that's something to think about.
The more serious offense is the hateful speech used in videos like, and he actually directly links to the Dead Space 2 demo playthrough that I did, the part 4, which is the last part, okay? And by the way, I hope that everyone at Blip who's been dealing with me is watching this video, because I'm going to be completely factual and honest. So let's continue. So that's the link he gives, and he says, this is clearly in violation and just plain unacceptable. Our terms of service states that we will remove content that is or may be deemed to be grossly offensive to the online community, including but not limited to blatant expressions of bigotry, prejudice, racism, hatred, and profanity. We will not allow our service to be used to promote hate, and we absolutely can't allow advertisements to be run on this type of content.
Help! Help!
It is what it is. We're going to keep continuing. Word for word. All right, next paragraph. We have turned off...
And speaking of which, all the expressions that I told you about and how his body physically reacts to all that shit would have gotten him shut down too. I think if anybody from Blip saw this, they were like, nah, we don't need that. We don't need that. Because Phil is having a hard time just keeping himself together. You can see how he wants to react in a negative way immediately. And you don't need people like that around. If you're gonna have people that are that jumpy, you need to, more often than not, you need to get them out of there. They're not going to listen to reason. You just can't have that.
advertising for your account, and we'll be removing your videos from our service on Wednesday, January 19th, giving you a week to find a new home for any videos you may have exclusively uploaded.
Okay, so it was okay. So they said they were going to move him January 19th. So yeah, so this did happen on the 10th. Oh, good. I mean, this happened on the 12th. I apologize. So good shit. All right, so this is from January 12th of 2010. All right, good shit. Good shit. Wow, wow.
To Blip. In most cases, we do not send checks to shows that grossly violate our terms of service, but we will make an exception in your case. Now, I do have to interrupt just to explain what he's talking about. The way that Blip TV works is they pay quarterly. And so everything that I've done in December ended basically December 30th. That's considered end of quarter. And so he's saying they're going to make an exception in this case. Now I'll continue. Your check will arrive on time with our next batch of quarterly payments. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but my decision is final, and we will be removing your videos from our servers in 1 week. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help with the transition. Your work shows potential, and I think that you can make a decent living doing this if you can continue to study the television medium and merge it with what you're doing currently. If you can fully embrace the show format and be more thoughtful and sensitive with your language, you'll go far. It's too bad we won't be able to go on that journey with you. Take care, yours, Eric.
Now let me talk. So when you think about what that letter said, whereas like, you know, you have potential, you could go for, you know, you might be able to make, remember, the guy's exact wording was you could make a decent living and whatnot moving forward and so on and so forth. I think Phil took that as, see, these people think I'm really talented. And even though they're kicking me off their site, they know that I'm talented. They know I'm talented. And Phil slowly but surely warped that into, oh, they didn't appreciate my talents. And the haters and the trolls screwed me out of all this. Well, fuck Blip. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to come back to YouTube and I'm going to show them. And instead of actually taking it in and realizing, hey, Phil, that guy said you're not that funny. He says, you know, you might appeal to a certain audience and you might make a decent amount of money depending on how long you're in the game for this. But you really need to go back and do a complete and total wipe and start from the ground up. And Phil didn't want to do that. So even though, as John and Howard has said, as Tevin has said, as many people have said, he was able to get pretty far with what little he had or what little he was willing to do. If he had actually put some effort into this shit, who knows where he could have gone. But you have a shitty individual with a shitty skill set, if one wants to call it a skill set, and a shitty personality to go to boot. And was not able to see past his own fist or past his own hoof. And that's why he failed. Now Phil is going to go into a little bit of a thing where he's going to be like, well, you know, you guys should give me another chance, which Phil says that for everybody before they kick him off. And the guy doesn't have to. The reason why the guy didn't have to give you a second chance, and it's obvious that he wasn't going to, is when he decided to pay you out. Okay? When he cashed you out, you know what I'm saying? Like when he actually, cast him out, not when they kicked him out, but when he decided to cash him out. That right there was it. Hey, we're going to give you your money, you know, for the last quarter, and they may have even thrown a little bit more in there. I'm just saying, you know, piggy, you know, hypothetical pignosis. And best of luck to you. We're going to give you your money, and we're going to give you some good advice. Hopefully you can do the best with it. That's it. There is no really convincing somebody outside of that. Now, you could try, but going about it the way Phil did is a complete total fuck up. We're going to see that in a minute. But he should have taken the hint. He should have taken the hint. If he wasn't going to quit this and continue to keep going, which he was, because he had no choice, because he already gave up on being like everybody else and actually having a real job, so to speak, then he needs to reshape what he's already done. But Phil's still holding on to the fact that, well, I already have gained popularity from doing this. And you guys even said I could have a decent future in this if I go ahead and shape up. Well, I'm not going to shape up what I do because that's what makes people like me. I'm just going to go to another platform that won't criticize me as much and won't have so many restraints on me. That's what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? The reason I didn't fail on your site failed me. That's what he's thinking.
And it says he is the director of content at Blip TV. Okay. That's his email, word for word. Didn't put any commentary, anything into there. Okay? There's a couple things I'd love to address, But first, what I'm going to do for you, I'm going to read you the email that I sent pretty much within an hour back to Eric at Blip and explain exactly what I said to him. Okay, word for word. No, no commentary, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I said.
One part you're going to love this, because this is completely, I did nothing wrong. I did everything correct. It wasn't even my joke. I stole it from somebody. I mean, I borrowed it from somebody else. And it's not my fault that my haters, took that shit to offense. It's not my fault that the people who don't like me are too stupid to understand comedy. It's not my fault, dude. It's not. You're going to love this.
All right, we'll cut out is I do talk a little bit about my past on YouTube, which all of you already know. I'm not going to go through that again. So let's go. I said, I started with...
So he gave those people his backstory, which is something that he does on pre-streams or begging videos. Now, you guys... Okay, guys, I started on YouTube, back before I could actually make money, and which is still partially a lie. And then I got fired from my 9-to-5 job after 5 years, and so on and so forth. And then I had to come to YouTube because it was my only real, choice. And I turned my hobby into my passion, into my hobby, into my job. He literally wrote that in a letter to them. And he was smart enough, and he was at least conscious enough. He was self-aware enough to realize, I'm not going to read this to you guys because that's going to make me sound more pathetic. But I'm going to tell you guys anyway that I put it in there. Holy shit. Holy shit.
Hello, Eric. First of all, allow me to preempt my response to your email by saying thank you for making an exception and following through with December's payment. Obviously, I am upset at this situation, but I wanted to get this out first before we go off on a tangent. I greatly appreciate your decision, and you will understand why once you read the below. Okay? Now, for those of you who are wondering why I did that, it's number one, I am extremely grateful that they are going to basically send me a payment for all the hard work I did in December, unlike what YouTube did. YouTube basically stole 2 months of hard work from me and basically said, well, we're taking you out of our program. Too bad. We're not paying you for those 2 months. So out of the 3 months...
You cheated them. You screwed over the Google AdSense account. I mean, you screwed over your own Google AdSense account, and you tried to screw Google over by having people purposely engage with the ads. En masse. And you said that YouTube stole it from you. They stole money from me. And then what, Phil? As soon as you got kicked from Blip, what'd you do? You went right back to the company that already stole from you? Wow.
I actually did stuff on YouTube on my partner channel. I only got credit for 1 month. So Blip, right off the bat.
So wait a second. So they didn't really steal from you then, because you did get paid for 1 month. At least that's what you're saying here. On that partnered channel that supposedly you'd never made a dime off YouTube before 2011. See what I was saying about that? Because this King of Hate Vlogs channel, or it was called King of Hate HD, I think at that time, one of the two. It was a vlog style channel. He could put content on there that consisted of vlogs or his traveling videos and so on and so forth, and he could be paid for those. He couldn't be paid for gameplay. That's what he really means. Gameplay is what he couldn't be paid for. But he'd been on YouTube getting paid for a while. And that's what gave him the idea that, you know what, I could make this a full-time job. I really could. All I need them to do is realize how beneficial gaming could be to the site, and then bam. The moment they allow gaming videos to be monetized, I'm in there.
Already a step up, okay? In my eyes, anyway. So here we go. Say, okay, here goes. Please do take the time to read this entire message. And this is me talking to Eric. Let me say that this is coming as a huge surprise. This is the very first message I've received from Blip TV in any kind of a negative light. I'm totally blindsided and very disappointed that you've apparently decided to terminate my Blip TV account without at first at least discussing it with me. It's basically a total 180. First, I think I'm doing everything right, working with my contact at Blip, who's been extremely helpful over the past month. And now I'm basically being told I'm banned for your business for things I had no idea, absolutely no idea were issues. All right, now I'm going to skip.
That's what like I said, I think that's what the original meeting they were going to have with him was going to go over. So he's talking about, oh, I didn't get a first offense. You guys didn't give me a smack on the wrist. They were going to. But then that whole situation with Dead Space just tipped it over, and they were like, you know what? He's already breaking a bunch of our rules anyway. It's just time to cut him loose. And that's the reality of business. The business doesn't have to accommodate you at times. Twitch is an extremely bad example of that, but the business doesn't have to accommodate you. You have to find a way to fit into that business structure and then work your way up. And then maybe, just maybe, you can get certain types of concessions. But you're just someone a month and a half in, something along those lines, and a month in. And you're someone a month in, and you're already wanting to have perks. You already think that you deserve to have certain types of benefits, and you don't get that.
The next paragraph, because basically what the next paragraph explains is how I was laid off from my job in September. I'm trying to make this a full-time thing, and YouTube basically shut me down from their AdSense program and kicked me out. Okay? So, let me continue. As soon as this happened, I actually had to scramble and figure out a new plan to continue what I was doing while finding a way to support myself financially. I am familiar with many of the more popular shows here on Blip TV, including the Nostalgia Critic. In fact, Nostalgia Critic is one of the, I'm sorry, I'm not tangent, but he's one of the biggest guys on Blip TV. Everything, all his videos he puts on Blip. In fact, I was actually was currently in talks to work with his gaming division, Blistered Thumbs. So now, yeah, the cat's out of the bag. I was talking to the Nostalgia Critic to work with Blistered Thumbs, and basically they would promote my content and I'd be part of them. Now that it looks like I might be off Blip, it's probably not going to happen, okay? Okay, blah, blah, blah. After speaking with them, I actually decided that Blip TV would be a great fit for what I do. Its ad system is view-based, not based off of clicks, and I've never had a problem with viewership. I did initially have concerns regarding the fact that I do video gameplay, and I had the same concerns on your YouTube, but per my legal research on the subject, I actually discovered that Let's Plays are not a violation of copyright law as long as there is live commentary or criticism, which basically turns the footage into a transformative work that is protected under U.S. fair use law. True,
but not by the standards of the company, and that's what he doesn't understand. He thinks, oh, well, the U.S. government is over you and over Blip TV, so what you say doesn't matter. I'm gonna go ahead and fuck around and do whatever I want on your website. You know what I'm saying? On your platform, and you're going to pay me because U.S. law says what I do is transformative. Even though in the terms of service that this idiot filled out and agreed to, it says, no, you're going to go ahead and agree to our standards and practices. That, you see how Phil yet again is trying to play the system, trying to look for corners in a circle? He's done it his whole life.
If all that I was uploading was raw footage with no commentary or review, then it would not be protected. But I actually film everything with a camera, not direct feed, and I always do live running commentary on everything that I do, which would protect it under the U.S. fair use law.
Let me point that out to you as well. Excuse me. Because that right there is an interesting bit of... I want you to kind of hear, or I want you to take in some of the pignosis he's putting on here. I'm thinking that the reason why he didn't move to direct capture as soon as everybody else did wasn't because he was, well, it is because he's ignorant, but it wasn't because he didn't have the resources. It wasn't that he wasn't going to be able to understand. He thought direct feed, for whatever reason, thought direct feed would violate copyright, U.S. copyright. And so this is what I'm thinking this idiot did. He decided to stay with the camcorder shit because, one, it was convenient, it was easy. Even though the tides of his audience and fan base was turning against him and being like, hey, you need to go to direct feeds because we want better visuals and we want better audio. But he's looking at it as, in his own head, oh, well, I can't do that because I don't think that's considered transformative. So all these people that are coming into the gaming sphere and and are making all this money and whatnot, oh, they're going to eventually get knocked off by copyright, and then, oh, I'm back on top again. Or I'm going to start being, or a few of them will anyway. So he was sitting there and buying his time. And he did so for like 3 or 4 years. Until he finally realized, they're not, what's going on, dude? They're not going anywhere. So he literally fucked himself for like 3 or 4 years because he's an ignorant bastard. And he thought, oh, I'm not going to play their game and I'm going to wait and see if they get bumped off. He was going to try to outlive those guys. You know, he was going to try to outlast those guys, if you will, by keep doing what he was doing because he thought it was safe. Think about that. And this is what hypothetical pignosis is going to be on the main channel later on when I get to it, is Imagine what would have happened if Phil actually went to direct capture early on, 2010, 2011, when he should have, and just imagine what kind of effect that could have had on his content today. But see, he was waiting for people to get bumped off because he thought that actually violated copyright. He literally thought that was going to violate US copyright by going to direct capture. Amazing. And this is what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you have somebody who believes he's the smartest guy in the room. That's the problem.
Actually specifically brought up this question with my contact at Blip, and he advised that as long as I added something to the raw footage to make it my own, and it would make it a transformative work, that I was in the clear. So, to your first point, Eric, stating that raw gameplay videos are a less serious offense of your terms of service, but I've basically violated this, I have to respectfully disagree based off of my research into U.S. fair use law and the responses of my contact at Blip. I have never
Copyright law and fair use law, sorry. It's two separate things, really.
Uploaded just raw footage to Blip. Keep going here. Now to your second point about, and I linked to that video, the Dead Space 2 Part 4 demo gameplay. It's meant for comedic purposes only. I do have actually several characters in playthrough commentaries, which are meant to be larger-than-life parodies of such racist stereotypes. And from that video, I'm assuming it might be, the racist parody that I did that you're finding offensive.
Also, remember, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and making jokes about other people and their race and stuff like that is okay. But making fun of his snorting and his his nasal drip and making fun of his gout, that's horrible. That's horrendous. That should never happen. But I can make fun of the color of your skin and the background of your people. I can do that, though. You need to just take the hit, bruh. It is what it is. Oh, sorry you weren't born the same color I was. But don't make fun of any of my medical conditions, though. Don't do that. Because you're wrong. And you're insensitive. Keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. That was one of the highlights of 2019.
These are not serious in any way, are not meant to be taken that way. I'm certainly not standing in front of a camera, giving a serious racist tirade, and I'm not a racist. This commentary is an attempt to enlighten the mood of a rather scary game with something totally off the wall and crazy. I would like to point out, and this is the word for word of mine, I would like to point out that Howard Stern, the most popular radio host of all time, has done far worse on the air, and yes, he also suffered some persecution from the FCC for what he did. But it was always meant as a joke, in good fun, and he never really had problems with advertisers. It was overzealous, over-conservative government regulation agencies which he had problems with. Also, please note that I did not receive one complaint from any viewer for this video, and that is true. I didn't get one complaint. No one said, Phil, I can't believe that you're doing this kind of stuff.
That's a blatant lie about the complaints. It's also he's also lying and or misinformed about Howard Stern taking backlash, him losing sponsorships, or him having to renegotiate situations with sponsorships with some of the crazy shit that they've said and done on that show. Howard Stern is taking plenty of backlash, and he's been very upfront about it for the most part, at least from what I've seen, about, what it was, you know what I'm saying, and what he's gone through, and how many times he's been sued, and how many lawsuits are on his ass. Howard Stern has been very upfront for the most part about that stuff. He takes pride in a lot of it, to be honest. Now, here's where the major problem comes into play. How the fuck are you going to sit there and compare yourself to Howard Stern? You stole his jokes, and then you were going to use his circumstances as shielding to protect you, just so you can stay on this little site? Like, instead of coming up with an actual constructive argument, he is quick to go ahead and pick these pathetically cheap little ways of protecting himself. And he wonders why no one takes him seriously. Because all he wants to do is play the blame game, play the blame game, play the blame game, instead of actually taking some responsibility, which people would respect. So he's blaming his contact at Blip. He's shitting on him, saying, oh, well, I told him what I was planning on doing, and he said I'm fine as long as it's transformative, and then trying to use U.S. Fair use and copyright law to save his own ass. Now he's blaming Howard Stern. Dude, I did everything right. I did nothing wrong. I did everything correct.
People love it. They think it's hilarious because they have senses of humor. Okay, that was a comment. I'm going to keep going. For the past month, I've used Blip TV exclusively as a place for my new footage, and I've constantly and repeatedly praised your business for your outstanding responses, customer support, and view-based ad program. I would not be surprised if hundreds of users out of my over 100,000 fans from over on YouTube have signed up and actually begun to use your service as a direct result of my recommendation. Again, I had absolutely no idea that anything I was doing was violating your terms of service. I was actually getting excellent help and feedback from my contact at Blip and thought that everything was fine. I'm appalled that you've made this permanent decision and you're not even considering further discussion. I'm a mature adult with a business degree, and I can fully understand if you have concerns. I'd be willing to stop with anything that might be viewed as racist if you feel it's a problem for your advertisers. I'm certainly not a racist in real life. But again,
even though I'm only going to stop being racist if it's going to hurt your money, which in turn is actually his money. I'm not a bigot, dude.
And up to this point, I have received nothing but positive feedback from Blip TV and its staff. If at all possible, please suspend the results of your decision until you and I can personally talk on this subject. I'm willing to talk at any time on the issue and will speak with anyone at your business who needs to be involved in an appeal of this decision. I think you'll...
Now, this is one of the traits that all loyal cows kind of have in some way, in shape or form. But I'm going to use Boogie as my example. So it's been said multiple times that when you talk to Boogie in public, especially if you talk to him in like a group setting, he will literally humiliate himself to disarm you, to make you feel comfortable with him, right? To make you feel like, to make him feel like he fits in. And he's very, very good at that. He's very, very good at disarming people. There were podcasts that he was invited on where they were going to shit on him because he fucked up and he said something or did something stupid. And within 10, 15 minutes, he had everybody laughing at him. And then he was laughing, and then everybody was laughing with him. And then as soon as everything was kind of smoothed over and no one really had any ill feelings or no one was able to express it at that time, he was gone. And he is very, very good at that. One example was when he went on to, I think it was the Ralph Retort. I think Medica was on there. I think there was a couple of people on there. And they were there to call him out on a particular situation and get his side of it. Within 10 or 15 minutes, he had those guys laughing with him. Everybody was joking it up. Anything that they did try to poke fun at him, he immediately, yeah, I was a fucking idiot, so on and so forth. Excuse me. They laughed it up some more, which only made them even more disarmed. And by the time they realized it, he was gone. He disappeared. And even after he was gone, they were like, damn, we were supposed to talk about this, we were supposed to talk about that, but he's such a likable guy that, I didn't even feel a need to bring it up. Or maybe it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was. For example, and Boogie's very, very good at doing that. But Boogie also has another talent too, besides that and his fence sitting, is if he has a real problem with someone and he can't settle it and it's not settled out in public, he'll get them in private and talk to them, and he'll literally conform to everything that they want to make sure that they have everything they want. He sees it their way and so on and so forth. So when after that conversation's gone and they go back out in public, they don't shit on him and hurt him anymore. He's very good at doing that as well, to an extent anyway. DSP is no different. DSP tries to use those same type of bullshit tactics. Oh, well, if you guys want any additional information, you can contact me behind the scenes and he'll hash it out. Because he has this thing in his head where, oh, I'll lie to you and I'll conform to whatever you want in, behind the scenes. So this shit doesn't go out in public and make me look like an idiot or make me look worse. You know what I mean? And don't be wrong, hashing things out behind the scenes is probably the best thing to do than doing it in public. But with individuals like this, they're just going to lie, right? And they're going to try to manipulate you and maneuver you into seeing things their way. And if they can't make it happen, they'll humiliate themselves to make you feel pity for them, to make you feel sorry for them. And so you let the situation go altogether.
I'm very professional off camera, and I'm willing to do anything that I can to stay on Blip, including seriously toning down things that you may think would be a problem for your advertisers. I just need to have a talk on where that line is, so to speak. One last note, and this is the end of the email. One last note, I'm only bringing this up because it is an inevitability, and I feel like I need to...
Here's the threat. This is where the threat's about to come into now. So I want you to really, really listen to him on this. Because he already kind of put out the pre-threat that, hey, I have a lot of fans, and a lot of them have already come over and joined your site. You know what I mean? Have signed up for your site. You know what I'm saying? So on and so forth. If something happens to me, I can't tell you what's going to happen next. I want you to listen to this part because this part's kind of important.
Mention it. If this decision does stand and I'm permanently banned from Blip within a week, you understand I'm going to have to explain to over 100,000 people on YouTube why this decision was made and why all of my footage has been deleted. And considering that, again, this is the very first time Blip has ever brought this up, I cannot imagine that the response is going to be very positive, but it might be the opposite. I could understand if I had been warned or told repeatedly that I was told that I was violating your terms of service, but this is the very first time I've been told, and now I'm getting the boot. It's the equivalent of an employer telling someone good job repeatedly and then giving them a pink slip the next day. So
the helicopter company.
Please consider this request for appeal. I will eagerly await your response, Phil Burnell. That's the black and white of it, okay? I'm obviously not happy with it. I'm disturbed because, as I said, this entire time I've been doing stuff on Blip, and trust me, it hasn't been easy. Trying to get someone, or not someone, but an audience, an established audience, who wants you to keep doing something as a full-time job, to move from one place to another when it's easy for them to just stay where they are. It's immensely difficult, and I'm so appreciative of everyone who has gone over to Blip because I think it is a great site. I think,
first off, you were only there for a month. What are you talking about? Like he was only there for a month. He was only there for a month. He expected however many subs he had at that time. He expected all of them to just go ahead and just jump ship to Blip. What? Like, who's unrealistic like that? Two, you're kind of countering your own argument because you said that many people have come over to the site because of you. Now, all of a sudden, you're saying it was a struggle, and it is a struggle to get people to move from one platform to another? And then you throw out the threat that, I think you said 100,000. Then you throw out the threat that, hey, I've got 100,000 people on YouTube who are subbed to me, and if you guys don't give me a second chance, whoo, doggy, I don't know what's going to happen. But I have a hard time getting people to support me on this second site. After a month. I guess he expected 70,000 people to just make the jump. Like, completely unrealistic. But that's DSP for you.
their ad program is way better than Google AdSense. I think it makes sense that people should watch the ads. That's how it works on TV, right? You watch TV, you watch an ad, the advertiser pays that network, and that network gets the money from it. It's common sense. So, I love Blip TV, I really do. And I want to continue working with them, and I am so blindsided by what...
Phil being a good hoe, yet again. And I've talked about this plenty of times, where whatever pimp he's with, he big ups them all day. And then when they eventually kick him to the curb, because they always do, and he finds another pimp, then he says, oh, they're the best pimp ever. And everything that previous guy did for me, it don't mean shit now. Because now I'm in a better place right at the moment. And that right there is the example that I've tried to express to you about his lack of long-term thinking. He only thinks about everything day to day. He only lives, in a lot of ways, he only lives his life day to day. And when he had all of that money, it explains why it didn't last very long. Just saying. I understand the situation about YOLO, but like, he took that way out of fucking proportion. And it came back to bite him. The people who love you one day, or even like you one day, there's no guarantee they're going to like you the next. There's no guarantee they're going to like you 6 months down, or 8 months, or a year down the line. It's just the reality. And money comes and money goes. That's why you save what you can. If you can. That's why the people around you who do a lot for you, you try to cherish them and you try to appreciate them, you know what I'm saying, while they're around you. Because God forbid, what happens tomorrow or later on down the line? Phil never looked at it that way. Let me give you another example. Brightside Viking, or Vidal. I think he thought Vidal was going to be there forever. And when he wasn't, that's why, and when he ended up throwing Vidal under the bus to save his own ass during Blood of the Blood Gods, that's why he latched on and he held on to King Tut. Because he thought King Tut was like, okay, King Tut is kind of filling that role that Brightside Viking used to. And if I can just hold on to him, everything will work out. And it didn't. That was like a 2-month thing, and that was it. The whole shit fell apart. I think it was like 2 months. Whereas Brightside Viking was with him for years, and he thought he could replace somebody after knowing them for less than 2 months. Yikes!
What happened to that? Because, like I said, I've never been given any kind of negativity whatsoever from Blip, and I could see, YouTube. YouTube has said to me, you violated our terms of service. For example, when I was doing my Dante's Inferno playthrough, and in part 1 there was a half-second clip I didn't realize at the time, but your wife, she's dying, there's make show her boob or something. Now, first of all, it's a virtual boob, okay? But what did YouTube do? Did they cancel my account? No, they said, okay, Phil, well, this is a violation because it did have some virtual nudity, so they basically put a strike against my account and took the video down. This is the first time I have any idea that I'm doing anything wrong, and they're saying they're basically going to kick me off the business, and there's no way to even talk about it. There's no open line of dialogue, and that's what I'm worried about. As everyone knows, I haven't had the easiest time, and starting in September.
Okay, now we're gonna get into your fucking sob story, but give me a second. We can let Baby Phil cry out in just a second. Yet again, with the whole, it's funny how he said, "Oh, I don't understand why you guys are giving me a copyright strike. It's a virtual boob. It's not that big of a deal." But then this is the same idiot that tells us now in 2020, our current year of gout, that virtual relationships are toxic and they're terrible. If you have a real relationship, right, you don't need a virtual one. You don't need the immersement, if you will, to be immersed, I should say, in gameplay and indulge, if you will, into virtual relationships, even if it's part of the side story or it's a side quest or it's part of the main story. Nope, you shouldn't do that. And people who do that are pathetic. Think about that. Think about how ridiculous that sounds. You know what I mean? And secondly, why didn't you edit the video? Why when they hit you with the strike, you were like, hey, if I edit the video and clean that up, can the strike be removed in X amount of time? 6 months or whatever. Why did he think about doing that? He would rather have a strike on the channel and live with that, instead of actually trying to remove, try to get rid of the problem and try to remedy the situation. Mr. Businessman. And then if you think about it, because of that strike that strike was on Darksydephil. No, wait a second. He says he has 100,000 subs. And this was 2010. Holy shit. I don't know what channel. What? He couldn't have had 100,000 subs on Darksydephil. He must be talking about between both channels. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, there's no way you had 100,000 subs on that Darksydephil channel. So, interesting. I'm going to have to think about that. But see, the Darksydephil channel was the one that ended up getting caught with that next copyright strike, which is what pushed him into starting the DSP family, the DSP family of channels, if you will, which was DSP Gaming, then his King of Hate vlogs, and then DSP Street Fighter. So what are you saying about you having 100,000 subs on YouTube when you couldn't have had that on a single channel? He has to be talking about the accumulation of all of his channels. He has to be. All right, fair enough. I'll crunch the numbers on that later. But But if you think about it, that strike that he had, either it didn't go away by the time he ended up getting hit with that next copyright strike, which was by, I said it was Rockstar, but actually I think it was like Ubisoft. I think some people corrected me on that and said it was Ubisoft who gave it to him. Somebody gave him a copyright strike. And that's what caused Darksydephil to go down for a little while. And then he had the fight to get that back because he sent his little piglets out to attack the company. And then they said, well, we didn't do anything. We don't even know who the fuck that guy is, and so on and so forth. So if he had cleared up that mess, Darksydephil wouldn't have gone down when it did. Which, if you think about it, it was probably a good thing he was lazy, because that right there made him transition and start new channels. So, I don't know. Like I said, that's part of hypothetical pignosis. We'll talk about that on that segment, now that I think about it. But interesting stuff.
When I lost my job, it's been hard. It's been a struggle. First of all, to stay positive, and second of all, to do this full time is a significant investment of time. And at least for the most part, I've gotten extremely positive feedback. People saying, we love what you do, keep doing it. What I would really like, and I hope that people at Blip are watching this video, is to open a live dialogue and to talk about it and see what we can do to work it out. And if it means, okay, don't do that kind of stuff because we're actually afraid our advertisers will get mad or something like that, or they, fine. But this was a comment made as a joke. It was an off-the-wall joke on the spot. And by the way, I don't plan out anything that I do in my videos. It's all improv. So it was off the wall, on the spot. I was basically trying to take the scary out of the scary game, because a lot of people get terrified at these games, and they say, Phil, when you actually play them, and you, with your commentary, you make it funny, so we're actually able to watch you, enjoy this game in a different way, and we actually admire that. That's why we like your videos. So
you went ahead and took the you took the horror out of a horror game and inserted the horror that happened in real life. I want you to think about that. Let's reword that. He's going to take a fictional story. We're going to take a fictional story, and we're going to pull the scary out of that, and we're going to put in something that actually happened. Something that actually caused a group of people who had had a way of thought. Sorry, I got a cough drop in my mouth. So saying ideology is starting to kill me right now. Who had a way of thinking and figured the only way they could achieve their goals was to eradicate another group of people. Well, historically, it was a bunch of groups of people, but you know what I mean. We're not going to get into that into that talk. But and decided to eradicate a multiple groups of people so they could have their way, because they felt like they were genetically inferior to them, as well as other things. You thought you were really going to pull this bullshit out, a fictional story, and insert this, and it was going to be okay. And what would have happened later on down the line if one of those kiddies actually went ahead and read about the Holocaust? And actually seen the pictures of some of the atrocities that happened? Then what? Then how do we explain it? What happens if one of those kids was in school and said some silly shit about, oh, well, the Holocaust wasn't really that serious, was it? And people look back at him like, the fuck? And your teacher's like, what have you heard about the Holocaust, buddy? Little Jimmy. Or what if they said some silly shit like that around their parents? Or somebody else's parents who know better? And this is some of the effects that this idiot had on people. He probably still has on some people. But that's not justified at all. This is what happens when you let the Jews do whatever they want. And that took the scary out of the game. That lightened the mood. Wow.
I'm just trying to, lighten the mood and be funny. If anyone took offense, I apologize, and none of my comments ever have been serious, and everyone knows that. I have friends of every single color. I'm not a racist or a bigot, and I think that's ridiculous.
Even though when people say racist shit, they always say that. Oh, that's funny.
And the flip side of it, I could see if I was right here on the couch right here, and this was a video about how I hate a certain race or something like that. That's completely different, and that has no place on any website, including Blip TV, and I'm sure advertisers don't want to be associated with that. But I've seen, like I said, I've listened to Howard Stern, I've watched Family Guy, I've watched South Park, I've seen things on regular TV, which, by the way, didn't say it was TV unrated like all of my videos do, and that they may contain explicit content, and it has way worse than the stuff that I do. So I am just completely flabbergasted at what happened, and that no one came to talk to me, especially since I've had an open line of dialogue with Blip for the past month. This open line of communication, I've been told, you're doing great, everything you're doing is great, and we love it, and now all of a sudden I'm being told, nope, you screwed up, goodbye. It's like, I basically use this analogy. Imagine if you got a new job, and your job is to hammer nails into a piece of wood, and
sure, on the job, whatever, you sign the waiver when you first get the job, but as soon as you go in, you're hammering, and your boss comes up and looks at you and says, good job, Phil, you hammered those in really well. And for the whole month, they couldn't come back to you, good job. In fact, here's a way to do it a little bit better. Good job, good job. And then at the end of 30 days, he says, well, here's your paycheck for what you did. Oh, but by the way, you've been doing it wrong the whole month, you're fired. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly the situation here. So, please, Blip, appealing to you, okay? Because I don't know if Eric's going to get his email. Open a line of dialogue. Give me a call. Respond to this. I'll give you my phone number. Let's talk. And let's.
How are they going to give you a call if you just after that statement you say, I'll give you my phone number? That's kind of like what Review Tech USA tried to pull recently. Even though if Rich actually looked, he could have found his number. But it's neither here nor there. Rich didn't have it. But what was it that Phil said? Oh, drop me a line. Leave me a voicemail. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, send me a DM on Twitter. Hit me up on, send me an email. And Rich said he didn't have any of those things. Rich could have looked for it, but he didn't have any of those things, so he didn't do it. This idiot right here is like, hey, give me a call. You know what I'm saying? Send me an email. I'll give you my number. Oh, so they're supposed to give you a call when they don't even have your number? Maybe you should have said, hey, reach out to me. I'll give you my phone number. You guys can call me. You can email me, and we can build a line of dialogue. Mr. I'm a mature adult with a business degree.
Figure this out. That's all I ask. I'm so insanely taken aback by what's going on here that I don't even know how to react. It's really hard. I've been trying to be positive for the past 4 months, but it's hard when you get stuff like this, and it's like, this was something so positive. Blip has been such a positive impact in my life in the past month after all the crap that happened with YouTube, and now come to find out it seems like the same thing's happening, and it's like, whoa, what the heck, man? So that's all I ask. Open a line of dialogue and let's go from there. Now, to the fans. Number one, be mature adults. I've now told you the entire situation factually, okay? Be mature adults. Don't flame Blip TV. Don't do any crazy stuff. Act your age, okay?
That's dog whistling. Granted, he already put the thread out there already. That, hey, I have 100,000 subs on YouTube. And I've already had people from my audience or my fan base go over there and sign up for your site and your service. I don't know what's going to happen if you guys don't let me back on. Those people on YouTube aren't going to be happy. Now he's going to sit here and try to put out there, hey guys, I need you to act your age, don't flame them, don't harass them. He's dog whistling. He's out and out dog whistling. And he knows that some of his audience are going to look back and be like, well, Phil's the underdog because that's what Phil told them. That Phil's the underdog. He's being treated unfairly. And I know he said don't do something, but I have to because it's unfair. And that's what they ended up doing. Or at least they tried to do it.
Act mature. And we'll go through this together like we've done everything else. And whatever happens, happens, and we'll take it from here, This is why I'm glad, and I said this from day one, since I started doing this, I have not spent any significant amount of money. I've been very conservative with my spending, and therefore...
Until the money became so good that he just fucking hoarded everything. So, let's go ahead and recap slightly. So, it's been, like I said, the original date was correct. So, this was in January of 2010. He got fired, late 2009? At least the way he's making it sound here. He got laid off in late 2009, early 2010, so we'll just overlap it like that. He's talking now about how he's being conservative with his money because he doesn't have a lot of it, because basically he broke. That's basically what he's saying. He didn't conserve shit. He's broke because he was relying heavily on mommy and daddy at that time to just make his mortgage and get food in the house and everything like that while he was trying to make Blip TV work. On top of the severance package that he was able to get from the helicopter company and his 401k that he cashed out. So, don't get me wrong, he wasn't going to live high off his own hog for that for long, but it was enough to keep him steady until he could find something to make it work. Which goes back to, because people ask me, like, hey, why do you always refer to Phil going back to Hutch or going to Hutch and sucking him off for a job? Because that's what he did. Phil was so desperate that he needed to get on there. And Hutch was his way in. And the fact that Phil had already had what would be considered a rather a mildly rocky history with Hutch, it only makes sense. It only made sense. And the thing is Phil has no pride whatsoever. And that's why I think nobody actually heard that until what? Late 2000. We didn't hear the story about him asking Hutch for a job until, what was that, 2018? Maybe that was 2018, 2019 when I heard that. I was watching a Tevin stream when Phil told that story. And Tevin was like, well, that's the first time we've heard that. Because it was. You know what I mean? So that's the situation with, that's the reason why I refer it to like that, to that situation. He literally begged Hutch for a job. Because he had no other choice. He had nothing else. Because his parents were probably looking at him and be like, hey, Phil, it's been a handful of months and you haven't been able to get shit together now. You're going to have to go off and get a real job, man. You're going to have to start really looking. And he didn't want to do that because he was comfortable sitting at home, drinking himself stupid, and turning his hobby, as he calls it, into wanting to turn his hobby into his job/career, which is now his prison. And that's why I feel no sympathy for him. He did this to himself. I have, a means at least to keep going for a while without having to worry. So let's recap. Yeah, again. So he ends up getting kicked off of Blip. Well, no, I've already recapped them. Sorry. He got kicked off of Blip and whatnot after trying to dog whistle or pig snort, if you will, to try to bully them to let him back on. That didn't work out. Goes back to YouTube, begs Hutch for a job, eventually gets on Machinima, and then everything happens the way it did. And like I said, the guy is incredibly lucky, but he's just pathetic enough too, to where people feel sorry for him. And that's the crazy part about Phil Burnell in a lot of ways. I've talked to Declan Reed about this. Big ups to Declan. That Phil tries to play the hero and tries to, like he is the grandest hero of his own story. But then he also acts like this very, then he kind of, and as being that hero, he's also tortured, right? Because he's always trying to do the right thing and things fuck him over. And I say tortured hero instead of saying actual victim because we're not to that point yet. So he's this hero, then he's this tortured hero, then he tries to play this underdog role, and then he plays victim, and then he just makes himself look absolutely pathetic where people will support him just out of pity. And it's all just kind of one big cycle because once he gets everything that he wants or enough to make him get over that hurdle, he's right back to hero status again. And then it just all back downhill. And for someone to go through the mental gymnastics of that shit for over a decade, I argue his entire life, is an amazing type of situation. So when Phil projects the idea that people are mentally ill, people need to have the white coats come get them, so on and so forth. I've said this before. I think he's actually referring to himself in a lot of ways. I think he's referring to his own mental state. And since this idiot, not idiot, he's an idiot, and since this individual has probably had some type of clinical assessment at one time or another, he had to be on a cocktail of medication and so on and so forth. It makes me think that he's no more stable than anybody else. But yet he's the first person to talk about that shit, which is a conversation that I had with Agent Proper, Dante Crisis, and a bunch of other people on one of the Gentlemen's Clubs, where I spoke about that a little bit. Well, we did. We all spoke about that. Same concept. He's no better than anybody else. He may be, if you want to call it being broken, he's as broken as anybody else is. He's no better. Just because you can keep it together in front of the camera doesn't mean that behind the scenes, as he likes to word it, you're holding anything. And in actuality, you've seen how he spurred out or how he fucking lost his shit at times in front of the camera. You think he's any more stable off camera? Let's be honest.
About being destitute, but obviously if this now is gone within a month, I can't work at Blip anymore. I'm going to have to try other avenues, and who knows where that's going to lead us. So let's be calm, let's be cool, complacent, let's stay positive, let's work together. Fans, behave. Blip, please contact me, we'll talk about it, and that's that. That's the whole story, and we'll go from there. So it is what it is. I tell it like it happened, and we'll go and we'll see what happens. So I'm DSP. I'll see you guys later. And like I said, stay positive. And Fan Appreciation Week is continuing tomorrow. This is what happens when you let the Jews do whatever they want. You've let the Jews overrun space, and now look at this. Their greed has had the artifact turn everyone into necromorphs. So now I, the last remaining Nazi, must exterminate them. Hello, Jew!
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're trying to take the scary out of the scary game. You know, by eliminating a real group of people. Just throwing it out there.
I killed with one shot. Damn. Yes, Jews in space. You'll see what happens.
Again, taking the scary out of the scary game, going ahead and curb stomping a bunch of fictional Jews, apparently.
Oh yes. Fuck you. Let's you fight me now, Jew. You have no legs. Give me your money. You've hoarded it for far too long. Why are you carrying your balls next to you? You stupid moron. You big-nosed freak. Aha! Isaac Heimler. That's my name. Fuck you. Aha! And now, turn the ovens on.
Remember, guys, taking the scary out of the scary game.
Look at this elevator. It's all colored and just special elevator. It's for the priest only. Takes you to special quarters with his room full of boys.
Ironic about that too. So Phil went to a Catholic school, and he had a strange, one would consider maybe an infatuation with a nun. And then, I can't remember when this actually, he let this out, but someone asked him, I think earlier this year, in 2020, our current year of gout, that what was his opinion on losing your virginity, like later on in your 20s or even in your 30s. And Phil got like clammed up when he said that. Like he really clammed up when this guy asked him this question, I should say. And he was like, well, I guess it's not that big of a deal, you know, everybody does everything differently. I know someone has seen that clip, and then he immediately just dismissed it. He was like, all right, let's go on to the next thing. It was something about that statement touched him in a way that he didn't like, no pun intended. So yeah, and then going back to that Catholic school, I don't know what they did to him, but they definitely it had an effect, and it certainly had an effect on how he views sexuality, if anybody has ever, you know, noticed. So the long-term effects of that sticks with him even to this day.
Where are they? I know you're hiding them. This is a long-ass elevator. Oh, hello. It's quite rude of you. Quite rude of you. A river dance on your face. How dare you? You fucker. Leave it to a Jew to drop in uninvited. Phil is far from the only 28-year-old that...
This is where we get into the fun stuff, because that last stuff is something. Anyway, this goes into the new blame game with the trolls, right? And the people who basically reported him, and how he said, oh, I had no blowback when the video went up. People loved it, and no one ever said anything negative about it at all. But then you get this. Now, if I remember correctly, this comment was left on Phil's forums, but you'll see. I want you guys to see the clown world shit that this had to come out. And Phil's reaction to it. And I think he sent this to Blip too, to try to further his case. Now, whether this is someone who actually had a criticism of him, or Phil playing piggy gay ops, right, to try to sell his narrative to let him back on, who could say? But Phil's just you know, pathetic enough, and he's just desperate enough to do such a thing, as most locals would.
Found themselves laid off from their jobs and in financial straits, but instead of sucking up his pride and taking a crappy job and moving back in with his parents, he's decided to panhandle his fan base. The relationship that DSP has with the fans is now totally based on money, and I fail to see how such a situation can end any way but badly. Save your pennies for your personal rainy days ahead, and force Phil to be accountable for himself.
Which is true. Which is true. Back in 2010, whoever it was who said that, gay ops or not, was right. And Phil does that now. His relationship, it's been like that his whole career, to be honest with you. Even before he got fired from the helicopter company, people were sending him donations so he could buy games and other peripherals and just to tip him, in air quotes, if you will. His whole relationship with his fan base has been about money. It always has been. It's always has been. And that's never going to change. That's just the reality. He looks at all of them as just walking ATMs. He gives not two fucks about any of these people. He never did.
Holy shit. This guy fucking is so jealous of my popularity and the fact that for 4 or 5 months now, yeah, I've been able to turn this into a business per se and been able to support myself, that he is fucking reporting me falsely to websites to try to get me banned and fuck me over, so I have to stop doing this for a living. Wow. You are a shithead.
But if that doesn't work, the last resort is Blip TV. But the problem with Blip TV is that they outright say in their terms and conditions that you're not supposed to upload video game footage. Now, a lot of people have contacted me and said, well, that's bullshit, because we see people with video game footage on there all the time. Well, that's true. There's always people who are going to abuse the rules. The problem is, if I put video game footage up there, and a lot of my viewers from YouTube follow over, it's probably going to get a lot of attention, and they might say something.
What you will see...
So, meaning that he was planning on breaking the rules anyway, which is what he did. And I thought all of that research and, you know, I went ahead and looked up fair use and copyright law. He may have actually done it, but it looks like he was going to play the system in either which way, because why not? Everybody else over there is kind of, well, other people over there are doing it. Why can't I do it? That's kind of like the same reason why he left Twitch the first time. Oh, well, everybody else is streaming at a higher bit rate. Why can't I? Why are you guys bullying me when I'm not nearly as big as those other people? Why aren't you coming down on them? All right, well, fuck you. I'm just going to leave. So, there you go.
Today is that in about an hour, John, myself, and our friend Joe, we're going to play Serious Sam the Second Encounter, co-op gameplay over Xbox Live. I'm going to record that, and then that's going to be going up on Blip TV today. First of all, today's the big day. The first DLC for Fallout New Vegas, Dead Money, just came out. I'm about to wolf down some breakfast, and then I'm going to start playing it. So this is going to be the first demo of using Blip TV for an actual Let's Play, and it's good because it's a DLC. It's not going to be like an 8-hour-long thing. We'll be able to test it together and see what we think. Fan Appreciation Week, here's how it's going to work. Every weekday this week, Monday through Friday, I'm going to be playing a different game, okay? Monday's going to be Halo Reach, Tuesday will be Super Street Fighter 4, Wednesday will be Call of Duty Black Ops, Thursday will be Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Friday will be Red Dead Redemption. And also, yes, I will be recording the matches and the footage. Maybe not all of it, because 6 hours of footage is a shitload of footage, but I'll be recording some of it to put up on Blip TV.
Literally spamming the site. Literally spamming the site. Holy shit.
He's fucking black. Help, he's black. Because you know when he's black, there's gonna be trouble. What the hell?
Ow. He shot the fucking handcuffs. Now what? Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Get out of there, Jaden. Come on, go, go, go. Jaden. Oh, come on, asshole. Don't get your legs squished. You don't want to be like fucking... What's his name? What the hell's the guy who was Superman? I forget his name. Christopher Reeve.
Oh, jeez. That joke, Phil.
I know.
That's terrible.
Christopher Reeve jokes are always funny. What are you talking
It's
about?
okay because he's dead.
Alright, nigga. It's time.
In China, they say, rashness brings success to few.
In China, they say, Chiggy Chang Wang Charlie Chan Chicka Chaka Choka Cha. Shut the fuck up.
Here's that amazing commentary, ladies and gentlemen, that everybody loves, and no one ever had any type of negative impressions on at all, despite this comment right here and the likes and dislike ratio. But, you know, everybody loved it, though. Everybody knew it was just a joke, and it was the people who pointed it out who blew it out of proportion and caused everybody to hate him. Supposedly.
Say China.
Is another important thing too. Sorry, it was a couple comments back, but given all the dumb shit that he said and he still got partnered, is kind of wild. It's kind of wild. But, you know, like I said, he's able to squirm his way in between cracks. It's really strange, man. It's really wild. And yet he spends more time lying and trying to get over on people than actually doing good work. You know what I'm saying? Or even attempting to try to do good work. Some people just don't have it in them, ladies and gentlemen. If Phil Burnell's taught me anything, some people just don't have it in them to be decent people. It is what it is. You know? It is what it is. That right there is ironic.
Baseball bat.
Dude, she's totally black.
Oh, look at this. It's this tape.
A
disc.
You know how I know she's black?
Smash the disc. Smash it with this baseball bat.
You know how I know she's black? You know in that preview video?
Oh, did you see that?
Asshole! Now can I finish
He fucking
my thought
whacked
before-
her. Hold on. Come on. Aw, I can hit her
Oh,
though.
sure, you can hit. That's how you know she's black. You can hit her.
Boom! Boom!
Now, you know, the funny thing is, it's not funny actually, but she's trying to make this black joke, right? And Phil knows it, and he's trying really, really hard to play around that shit and almost like discourage her from saying it, or trying to just basically, or try to sponge it out. You know what I mean? So it doesn't fully come through, which is funny because if it's all jokes and it's all in good fun, right? And it's not that serious, right? It's just a bunch of people taking shit out of proportion, right? Why won't you let your girlfriend do it if you're okay with doing it? That seems a bit hypocritical. I guess it really was a father-daughter type of relationship. Hey, honey, you don't do what daddy does, okay? You know what I'm saying? You do as I say, not as I do.
Boom!
That's
You
how
beat the
you
shit
know
out of her
she's
with a
black.
baseball bat.
But no, there's a
What
part
the
in the
fuck?
preview where she shot the vending machine with a gun. If she was Hispanic, she would have knifed it.
Wow. She's just taking a fucking world beating. Look at this.
What's that?
You beat the shit out of her.
Watch, I'm gonna join. Wow, you know a lot's been accomplished since the black girl died. I hate to be that person to say it, but we all think it.
Can we go over here? Oh shit.
going on,
Wow. Oh boy, him and Panda were a match made in hell, weren't they? All right, ladies and gentlemen, give me just a second to go ahead and close our shop, and we'll reconvene in just a second. Holy shit. Panda, no! No, Panda, no! Oh my god. That was some really wild stuff, I gotta tell you. Jesus Christ. Oh, the Panda stuff at the end was just the icing on the cake. It's nice to see father-daughter bonding. That was great stuff. Big ups to LD, very much appreciate it. Big ups to the individual who recommended this video. And closing thoughts. Closing thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. I think a lot of it just comes back down for me is the hypocrisy in it all. Like, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, he was getting kicked off. He was breaking the rules blatantly. He was blatantly breaking their rules, trying to use U.S. fair use and copyright to cover his own ass, despite the fact that you signed the terms and conditions of a particular company and what their laws are, what their rules are. You know what I'm saying? They understand and know what U.S. fair use and copyright is, because that would put their company in jeopardy if they didn't. But they still have certain types of regulations and stuff on their own site, and Phil thought, oh, I'm just going to bypass that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to go ahead and get past all that. It is what it is. Even though the same thing that he says that is transformative is what detractors do now and have been doing for many years. Since the beginning, really. And he said that they were stealing his footage, it was unfair, it was unlawful. So, and that, and remember, it's all Tevin's fault, and Tevin should go to jail because he's stealing. Keep that in mind too. Despite, you guys see how Tevin gets down. You know what I'm saying? You see how Tevin gives it up, and that right there is not transformative? Okay, Phil, sure, no problem. On top of that, the pig whistling, or dog whistling, if you will, that he tried to do with his fan base, that he used as he alluded to using as a threat against Blip if they didn't let him back on. Absolutely amazing. The situation with Blistered Thumbs and that guy with the glasses, I mean, to be honest with you, it was a win-win that neither one of them ended up coming together. So, especially given all the shit that happened with Blistered Thumbs, or not Blistered Thumbs, but that happened with that guy with the glasses later, with all the leaks and all that sort of shit. So, that is what that is. So there was a bullet dodged on that. And I just want you guys to kind of see how business wasn't done properly. Like I said, my apologies with the dates. By the way, the date was correct. I swore the first time I heard the talk about Blip TV, they said that he said he was on there for like a month and a half. But he's saying it's a month now, and this is the earliest footage of it, so a month it is. But my apologies on the dates and some of those things, but I'm glad we were able to clear it up here. But you saw how he handled business. You saw how he did business. You saw how he lorded over some of the people in his audience and how they sucked that shit right up. And then you see what he was doing. For any of you who haven't seen the actual Blip TV footage, now you got to see what that was. And this idiot really thought that, oh, I was taking the scary out of it by interjecting or injecting some real life horror, some real world horror that actually happened that people can easily look up. That stuff is funny though, because it happened in real life. But the fictional horror is terrible, and it gives these kids nightmares. And I gotta go ahead and be a good Uncle Phil, and wow, fuck all that, I'm not gonna call you Uncle Phil. I gotta be good Daddy Phil, right? And I gotta rock them to sleep with some other shit. That's wild. That's all I can say to that. That shit's wild. That's insane that he actually thought, or he could justify that. You can't justify that shit. And then the stealing from Howard Stern and trying to pass that off as his own. Oh, well, network television or cable television has South Park, Howard Stern has all those things on it, and that's legal. Why are you guys shitting on me? You know what I'm saying? Why are you guys shitting on me when I'm just going ahead and doing my impressions of them? That's not fair. That's not cool, dudes. Like, that just shows you what kind of what kind of irrational fuck that Phil Burnell really is, and always has been. It always has been. There are plenty of people who run around here and try to give Phil the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, he's not really that bad of a person. He's not really this much of a shithead. He's not as stupid as people say he is. Yeah, he is. He's every bit of it and some. And some. More than you know. And the reason why is because a lot of people don't go back. And a lot of people don't look. No, not who has time to do that? Well, I do. But and other people do. But how many people would be willing to do that? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of shit to go over. Over a decade worth of garbage. Phil want to debunk, I want to debunk too. I want to play debunk game too. If you want to debunk stuff, I want to debunk stuff as well. And the only thing that we really have over him is being able to back it up. If you can have names, if you can have dates, if you can pull the videos out, that's your proof. Phil can't give you those things. And most of that stuff, he can't even get rid of because he don't even know where that shit's at. So, that's the reality. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening, and I very much appreciate it. I'll see you guys for the next one. I'll see you guys for the next one. But Blip TV, as far as I'm concerned, was the beginning and the end. If you guys wanted to see Phil Burnell for what he was at one of the earliest points, I think Blip TV was a perfect example of that, to be honest. And the fact that he was able to hide the situation with Hutch, having to beg him for a job for as long as he did, that's wild to me. That's wild. And you know, Tevin would have caught on to that and told us that a long ass time ago if he had heard it. You know what I'm saying? And so that means Phil never brought that up. And I would assume that's rather humiliating for Phil to have picked a fight with a guy and then have to go back on his hands and knees and ask him for a job later. Wow. Wow. And at that time, Hutch was kind of like a recruiter for Machinima. So that right there gives even more validity that Phil did ask him for a job. You know what I'm saying? But I think originally when I heard him going to Machinima, I think he said Machinima reached out to him after Blip TV. But now, that don't seem like that's the truth. Well, actually, we know it's not the truth now. That he actually went to Hutch and asked him for a job. Said he was in a real bad spot. He had been fired from his helicopter job. He got fired from Blip. Or he was wrongfully fired from Blip, whatever. And he really needed a way in. And Hutch was like, well, I have history with you. You've been around for a while. And I can give you a shot. Now, that was out of either goodwill or out of pity, whichever. But that's the reason why he got the job. And that's what has brought Phil Burnell, to where he's been, to where he is really just pity. It wasn't about talent. It wasn't about any skill. It wasn't about being informative. It wasn't about being funny. It wasn't about being entertaining. It wasn't about being any of those things. It's people felt pity for him. More often than not. Yeah, he'd been around for a while. You know, one could argue if he's really been a pioneer in this shit, or a forerunner or whatever, but it really just comes down to the fact he's been around for a long ass time. And what that does, to be honest, is it's an attestament to human nature, where no matter how people are willing to overlook certain shit for a person, because no one wants to see that guy on the street. No one wants to see that guy homeless. You know what I'm saying? And that's understandable. And that's appreciated. But then you have people like Phil Burnell who will prey on those things, who will be a predator to that and use that to his own whims, which is why he is where he is now. And I hope it was worth it, Phil, because you're on the cuffs of losing everything. If you think Corona Chan is going to save you, not in the long term. You know what I mean? Not in the long term. And if those banks want to go after you, they can. They didn't have to all show up on that call to do that, because it's very well known that information is being sent to all those companies respectfully, because we all know who are the players in this bankruptcy, and so it's not going to be hard to find who do you send that information to. Hey, you have a case against Darksydephil, against Phil Burnell, Philip Paul Burnell, and whatnot. I have some information that I think will be useful to you. Do of it what you will. Just throwing it out there. And mid-first, he can't even stop mid-first. Mid-first is going to take the condo, which is what Phil wants, but then they want their 60 or 70 grand on top of that. They're going to get their money. So either way, he's going to take hits. And that's the reality. And this is what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you take the easy way out. You think what Felix did, or PewDiePie, was the easy way out? You think what Markiplier did was the easy way out? Those guys grinded just like everybody else did. Everybody got to start from somewhere. Phil put in, just all Phil did was spam the system. And he found a group of people at a particular time who took what he says is his humor and liked it. I don't think any of them really loved it. I think they just liked it. It was immature shit coming out of some asshole who they looked at as, oh, he's like the popular guy in school. He's not afraid to say anything. When he's just as much of a coward as anybody else could be in that particular situation. There's nothing special or unique about him. Either which way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. And I'll see you guys for the next one. This is DSP News 2nd edition. Take care of yourselves, guys. Oh my god. Oh my god.